Welcome back to the Perfect Father podcast. We have a special edition, special episode. I'm going to title it Meet Jonathan, or JK for short. Yeah. He's known as JK. I've always called him Jonathan.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Can I stick with Jonathan for the sake of the interview?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'll be great. So, this is my dear friend, and he's in town this week. He's moved out of town. He's recently been married. How long ago now?
April 5th was a year ago, so it's about 13 months now.
Okay. Shout out to Crystal. Wave. You need to wave or something. Say I love you.
I love you, Crystal. And she's working, but I doubt she's going to watch this.
No, we'll make sure she does.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. You send it to her. Okay. Special lady. I've only met her once, and I would just say, I was trying to think of how I would describe her. Really sharp woman, but a kindness.
Yeah, that's the word for her that I tell her all the time.
Okay, well, that's a confirmation.
She's super kind.
Yeah, I could tell just in one extended conversation I had with her. So he's back in town. We'll get into our history a little bit, but really where I wanted to start, Jonathan, is talk about friendship a little bit. Jonathan and I have been the term I think most people understand as accountability partners.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think that's adequate in description.
Yeah, I quit using the word accountability.
Yeah. Well, why?
Because I think it implies just guys getting together, asking a few tough questions. Did you or did you not?
Yeah.
And I think what the word I appreciate more and use is alongsideness.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine is like, I want to come alongside you. I want to ask you to come alongside me.
Okay.
And more than if we haven't agreed upon something that I want to have you hold me accountable, or vice versa, we'll ask about how did it go, and if it didn't go well, then the alongsideness presses me to come in and, well, how can I help us help you improve that area? How can we come together on that? As opposed to just meeting once every now and then and asking questions.
Right.
But leaning into one another for getting over or doing what we said we want to do.
Right. I like that. I think that the accountability partner. The problem with it certainly there's accountability but in my understanding it's accountability that's invited. Right.
Yeah.
I would reach out to you and say, hey, Jonathan, I want you to hold me accountable in this area. So, when I talk about friendship, he is a handful of friends in my life that fully know me. And that's such an incredible gift. And as part of that, I have to be honest and I have to be vulnerable and I have to be transparent in order for you to be able to get to know me. Any thoughts about that?
Well, you have been. And that's called me out as well. That's given me permission to be the same way. And even in this alongsideness I just said, I've experienced that from you. That it's not just about behavior, but it's about pursuing the heart. And you've done that. And I think the friendship, that's where I think our relationship has risen above others. And it's the same thing for me too. There's a handful, very few, who know everything about me, and you're one of those. But the invitation to say, look, man, I'm available any time of the day and night. Call me if you're struggling, or if you just need to bounce some thoughts around, or if whatever it is.
Right.
And even calling on you to help me overcome. I need you to call me every hour for the next 12 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, because we've had seasons, just to be blunt, where Jonathan and I were like, man, life's so tough right now, let's have a phone conversation every night.
Yeah.
And we've done that, and we've provided that for each other. So, when I talk about this vulnerability, I like to call it, Brene Brown, if you've not read her, she's incredible. She's the one who's done so much research on vulnerability and intimacy and transparency and authenticity, these words. And she talks about heart language. I like, because I'm a guy, I'm a dude, as you are,
Thank God.
I like to call it gut language.
Yeah, I like
because I think it has to come from the gut, because it takes a lot more courage to be open and honest and vulnerable than it does to hide.
Yes.
Clearly, or perform, or
Yeah.
make you think everything's okay.
Yes, I agree.
You know, I'll throw out this quote, and you tell me what you think about it. And it's something you and I have discussed. We connect at weakness, not trying to impress with strength.
Yes. No, I think that's a line that I've seen over and over in our relationship, and it doesn't. Well, today I did this. You know, I think I just shared with you some places where I gotten weak today and last night.
Yeah.
And that was helpful. And what I have found in that connection word, I think that's the key thing. Is like I have to decide if I'm just going to relate with you and give my best face, but that's not the real me. But when I'm a factory of terrible thoughts and things, and they go through my mind, as well as good things here and there. But when something is weighing on me, or I'm tempted, or I'm struggling in some way, and I just keep it inside, then I'm the only one carrying it. I'm the only one that's the only voice I'm hearing is mine, or something, or an evil one, and I'm just dealing with myself. But when something about whether it's a text or it's a call, getting it out and saying, man, I need to share with you what's just going through my head that I don't want to handle alone.
Right.
And when I do that, it takes the power. My experience is that it takes the power out of the weaknesses that I hear and brings me into community, which this is God's idea.
Yeah, it is God's idea. I was thinking about that. The scripture that comes to mind, and you're the missionary, so you might give me the reference, but
may or may not. I don't know.
So wasn't it James who said, "Confess your sins to one another, pray for one another, that you would be healed"?
Absolutely.
And I love that scripture because, you know, theologically, I believe that forgiveness is 100% based on what Christ did for us on the cross.
Yes.
Took the judgment we deserve. So that's an instantaneous gift of grace that we did nothing to deserve. But healing is progressive. Mm-hmm. And I'm really come to the place, I don't believe we can experience healing apart from what I'm describing.
Yeah.
The friendship, the alongsideness that you said, the vulnerability, someone that cares for you and fully knows you.
Yeah.
Because one of the lies that shame says, and I know I heard this many times growing up, is if they knew this about you, they would not love you, right, or care for you or accept you, fill in the blank.
Right. And that's a shallow friendship. And I've had friendships like that I've thought were good ones, best friends, but they didn't know everything. And I thought if they did know everything was going on, then I would lose them.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that plays upon my fear and fights against my courage.
Right, and I think intimacy, you said something a while ago, and I won't get it, verbatim, but you were talking about sort of the give and take between us. And I always like to describe, it's not the perfect metaphor for a couple of guys, but intimacy is like a dance. It's a give and take. Mm-hmm. I take a risk to be known at a certain level. You reciprocate, mm-hmm, and then it provides that safety to feel like you can go deeper and peel back layers.
Yeah. And you can go beyond just whatever the presenting issue is, and you get down to the real drives in the heart of a man, and talk about what's going on, and be able, and joys and dreams, and hopes, not just struggles,
successes,
and all that kind of stuff.
Dreams, and so I like that, and we talk about this. Jonathan and I were discussing. You missed being a part of Generation X by 1 year. 1964, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm technically a boomer, but I don't feel like
I know. I'm adopting him as a Generation Xer. I was born in 1970. So Generation X is 65 to 80. So you're there. And, we were talking just a little bit last night about growing up in the 70s, 80s, and what that time period looked like, and so just to get to know you a little bit better and get to know me even a little bit better, growing up in that time, one of the things we were talking about last night was there was a lot of independence.
Yeah.
There was a lot of go out the door, hit the woods, hit the streets. You might check in to grab a sandwich at lunch, and then you're out to dark.
Yeah.
It was building forts, doing all that. I was on my Dallas Cowboy bike. My dad bought Dallas Cowboy bike for me and a Pittsburgh Steelers bike for my brother. So there was a conflict there.
Yes, for sure.
But anyway, so talk about that independence, kind of growing up in those late 70s, 80s, preteen, teen years.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously there was no cell phones. There was nothing that you could just keep in track, your kids with. There were certain points of the time of day you wanted to check in, that kind of stuff, would be at the house. Mine was like, especially as a little kid, turn you loose with your dog and your friend, and you're gone for hours, and you're exploring in the woods or building a fort, like you said, or doing those kinds of things. And I think that I didn't know any different. I think now the kids have cell phones with them all the time. I think I really would have not liked that. I think the creativity, it's a part of life when you're discovering and you're making up games, you're struggling with other guys. I mean, just rock throwing contest, so you can throw it the furthest and that kind of stuff.
Or maybe at each other.
Yes, that's right. Well, if you want to get into some stuff, we used to have some fierce dirt clod and
dirt clods were big for us.
And green pine cone battles.
Ooh.
Get the old metal garbage can lid as a shield.
Oh, that's great.
A pouch full of those. You got your fort. And
the green pine cones, those were brutal, man.
They were brutal. You're going home bloody.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm grateful for growing up in those times. There was a lot of independence, a lot of discovery. But I also want to talk about, I think that independence or some of those barriers, because when you and I talk about gut language, I don't think that this was something that was necessarily passed on to us in our family of origin. Might have been for you.
No.
But it wasn't for me. So thinking about getting to this place of being open, honest, a willingness to express your emotions. And when I talk about vulnerable emotions, I'll tell a quick story, because when I was, I don't know, we tend to exaggerate. I think I was 8 years old. If my dad watches this, he may say you were 9 or 10. I don't know. He had me cutting the grass on a riding lawnmower when I was 8.
Wow.
So a lot of responsibility. And I don't know if it's the first time I did it, but I ran over a magnolia tree. It wasn't real tall. It's like 6 or 7 feet tall. But so the lawnmower gets up on it. It's coming down. Sparks are flying, and it was horrible. So
sounds like a boy's growing up.
Yeah. So the engine shuts off, and I fall on the ground, and I'm just crying. Right. I'm just panicking. It's really fear of what he might say or whatever. And so he comes out and he checks on me, and then he just tears into me, screaming at me. Okay. Once he figured out I was okay. And I don't really know what was going on in him. I think he was just scared. But it signaled to that 8-year-old young man, Carl, that it's not okay to express messy emotions.
Yeah.
It was just a point where it was kind of like that was what was signaled to me. Do you have any experiences like that where you just kind of like, you don't do that?
It's interesting. My childhood is split at 10 years old. Before 10, I felt like I was a happy-go-lucky, getting in trouble. I got spankings and things like that, but it was all good. It was kind of like that's part of it. Parents divorced at 10. Dad remarries. Dynamics of life changed dramatically, and my new stepmother was key in creating that kind of tension. And you were not allowed to be able to share how you really felt, or if you had a thought, you could share, but you had to be calm. You never could be upset.
Okay.
You can never express emotion.
So that was the messaging in the house.
Yeah, you gotta be controlled.
Yeah, and was that that's interesting, because I think a lot of I think this was I know it was the case with my dad. Is I felt like we were almost responsible to keep it calm for him.
Yeah.
Was that similar with her? Like you don't ramp it up. You don't really let things out because, you feel responsible to manage her emotions.
Yeah, that's a very well way to say it. Very good way to say it. It was about another person. Everything in the family was about another person. And I would say also, I think I was in a unique way within our family dynamics expected to be the peacekeeper,
Okay.
the person who was able to come in and settle things, and then and so it wasn't about like what was really going on in my heart, how did I feel about something, or what my thoughts were. It was more like, how do you make everything work for this other person?
Right. I really want everybody to hear this, because there's some real similarities here, and I think this is probably pretty common in households where there's some dysfunction. You could say every household has that. There's more extreme cases.
Yeah.
My parents divorced in my teenage years when I was about 18. I may re-reference that as we go, but the seduction to feel like you have to, and I say seduction, I use that as a word because evil is operating, right, to try to shut us down and to have to manage a parent's emotions. And so I just say that to say barriers are created to keep us from being able to do what we're talking about, and that is connect on a heart-to-heart, gut-to-gut level.
Yeah.
And so, we were talking a little bit last night about, 20s feels like a little bit of a blur. Like you're maturing, you're goal-oriented, and at some point, you were saying 30s, I think for a lot of people, maybe it happens late 30s, early 40s, but I don't think that really matters. Something happens, and I don't know if it's just a man thing, but we hit a wall. And you were using the word, you become more reflective. I have some thoughts on it, but you asked me to think about it, so I wanted to talk about it now. But talk about your thoughts about that, about just kind of hitting a moment and becoming more reflective.
I think that growing up in the home that I did, especially as a teenager, where it was more controlled. It was I went off to college really immature in a lot of ways, but when I finished college and I used my 20s to really create my own paths, live by the things, not just what my parents said that I was supposed to do and think and everything, but I was finding out for myself. But I was also enjoying cutting my own pathway forward, and a lot of energy was that. And I found out my confidence grew when I saw things that I was doing that were working or helpful. I felt like I was smart, and I could express myself and engage myself in other people in the unique ways I was. But once that was established, my own life, I was taking responsibility for myself. I think the Lord started showing me things about what had happened in my childhood growing up that were not right, and they were wrong, and I didn't understand it, but I understood that it wasn't just about me being able to establish my own life. And one way that played out was in understanding when I was about 29, I started getting this idea that I really didn't appreciate the grace of God. I really didn't think I had been that bad or done it, because I lived in a controlled environment, right? You were born to be good, and you're groomed to be good or try to be good or do the right things and all that kind of stuff. And when I was 29 years old, I understood that I needed to go back and I prayed to God and said, Lord, help me understand my need for your grace and your goodness. I don't know if you want me to tell that story, that example I had, but that's about being in Manhattan and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was like the way I viewed my salvation was like if I was in a crowd in downtown Manhattan at the height of lunchtime when everybody's walking, there's thousands of people walking on the sidewalks. I'm in the crowd walking away, not realizing that Satan had a scope on me, and a sniper rifle somewhere back on a building, and he had it zoned in on me. And he pulls the trigger, and I'm walking away. I don't even know. He had a silencer gun. Nobody heard it, and I didn't know I was in danger. But I heard later that Jesus had dove right in front to take the bullet from me, and I went on. I never knew it till later on when someone told me about it, and how I was thankful that I was still around. I was saved, but I never realized the danger that I was really in.
Yeah, and when you said that to me last night, the night before, I was thinking, the way I view salvation, I'm going to go back to that understanding of forgiveness, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Christ alone, he took the punishment that you and I deserve. But it doesn't take away the fact that we're still in danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're still vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. Because, when you asked me that question, I thought one of the things that occurs, it could be 30s, 40s, 50s, is some of the survival mechanisms that we were utilizing to cope when we were young, especially in that controlled environment, whatever that looked like, abusive environments in some cases, whatever we were using to survive is no longer working for us.
Yeah.
That's showing itself to not be sufficient. And that's pretty common, because I said I might re-reference my parents' divorce, and you've heard me share this. I was heading off to college to Birmingham Southern down the road. My parents got divorced. My dad was fire selling the house that we had grown up in. He was moving back in with his family, his mother, in a not great situation. I loved her to death, but not great. I'll just say it, in a trailer. So nothing wrong with trailers, but
Trailer trash.
So no problem there. But so I was heading off to college. My mom moved out of town, and I felt the weight of the world that I had to succeed. There wasn't anything to go back to. Now that's not 100% true, but I felt it deeply.
Yeah.
And so that pushed me into just an engagement. Now, like you said, there was a lot of success, right? I did well academically. I didn't do so great academically in high school, but that survival mechanism, man, I was going, man.
Right.
I went to every class. I did every assignment, graduated with honors, academic All-American on the soccer team, all that stuff. And so that drive, and I'm grateful for that independence. It was a coming of age for me, but then I found myself, in my marriage. At one point, I was working 3 jobs. I was running 2 institutions and doing entrepreneurial work on the side. My counselor told me later, he said, "You're lucky to not be dead." And so what I call that is, and we've talked about this, the orphan mentality. If it is to be, it's up to me.
You're driven.
I've got to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And what I would say is, part of me is grateful for that coping mechanism, right? Because it did develop some things in me.
It's productive.
It's productive. But the other thing is, it wasn't sustainable. Right? And that's where
it wasn't real life.
That's where the crap hit the fan for me.
Yeah, I think things like that, and you fill in the thing besides productivity, you're driven to succeed or whatever it is. Or if it's the opposite, you're driven to check out, to withdraw, or those kind of things. It is a coping mechanism. It's something that gives me and fuels me forward somehow, or it gives me either a sense of purpose or a sense of safety, and neither one of them can save. Neither one of them can speak to what's really going on in here, and it's doomed to fail because it works in some ways for a little while, but then you're going to run out of gas on it.
Right, and as you run out of gas, the fear kicks in, and you're looking for various ways to escape and cope, and most of the times those are counterproductive means. So all those things, and certainly it didn't encourage what I'm talking about with friendship, gut to gut, heart to heart, because you're performing, right? You're never letting them see you sweat. You want to let everybody around you know that you're okay. And so again, I'm just grateful.
It's up to you.
It's up to me, right? It's very isolating, and so I have to pull it off on my own. I have to do it on my own. So obviously that wasn't encouraged, and honestly, the only way, I think that's your phone ringing. No, that's okay. The only way that I've found to get through that is pain. C.S. Lewis said, "Pain is God's great megaphone." It is when things begin to crack.
Yeah.
When it becomes obvious that it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm, as hard as that was to go through, and also the people I hurt in the process, and I have living amends with many of them, and I'm grateful that they give me the grace and allow me to walk it out with them. So, in anything along those lines about just how we got here, and maybe some pain or whatever of overcoming those barriers that weren't really encouraged or understood as a child.
Yeah, I think one is that the older you get, the more experiences you have, especially if you're in leadership, whether it's in a family or an organization or something. You get a taste for your capacities, your capabilities, and those kind of things. And what happened in my world was I got into my early 40s, and I remember I was asking God to show me what
Right.
my need for grace, and He was so faithful to that. But I also got into my 40s, and I was in ministry, and I became really, really good at helping other people, and I was absolutely undone at helping myself.
Mm.
And I was through some dreams. I had recurring dreams about that were spooky and crazy.
Yeah.
I had things that were kind of scary, but then I remember the Lord was saying to me, "There's some things that are undone from the way you grew up."
Right.
And not just normal growing up. There were some bad things, some abuses,
Right.
and those kind of things were part of that. That imprinted upon me. And He said, you've done well in learning how to serve me, how to help other people, those kind of things, but you don't know how to take care of your own heart. You need somebody else to do it. And I want you to step back. And so I basically quit my job and went and pursued a good friend, a good church, and a good counselor.
Good. So, good friend, good church, good counselor. You've heard me say, I think it's a Jordan Peterson quote. He says, learn to treat yourself like someone you really love.
Mm.
That doesn't come natural for most people. Most people are very conscientious. That means they're agreeable. So it's more intuitive to take care of others than it is to step back and take care of yourself.
And when you are a kid and you're taught that, like in my
Right.
case, this is your role in the family.
It's almost selfish if you...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Right, you shouldn't be telling me that, this bucking things. And so we developed that voice. Well, I'm very grateful that you went through that season. That obviously has blessed me in our friendship. Okay, so I want to transition to one other thing. And I hope, I'm going to pause and just say, and encourage you. And I've said this before, to find caring others, caring friends, and learn to, if there's not anybody, I'm not shaming you. That's very common. I think for most people, you might get one or two of those people in your life. I have maybe two. Jonathan's one of them. A couple of guys that know my whole life, my whole story. Very grateful for them. Shout out to Lee. He's another one. So that's common. Don't think it's going to be 10 people, but my encouragement, pray for it, pursue it, and then learn to open up and see how incredibly freeing that is to be known and loved. Jesus was sent in the flesh, incarnation. And I've said this before, that the healing component, I think on earth to some degree, we have to be known and loved.
Yes.
Somebody has to know us fully, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, Hebrews 4 says that we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but He was tempted in every way just as we are, yet without sin, so we could come boldly before Him in His throne of grace to find help in time of need. He gets us.
Yes.
And He wants us to come.
Yes, and I've you heard me quote last time, despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief.
Yeah.
He understands his condition. And along with that, I think on earth we need the friendships. That's that incarnation. That's Jesus in the flesh of another person, loving us. They can't love us like Jesus, but know us fully, support us, accept us, challenge us, walk with us, cry with us, laugh with us, cuss with us.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, just all of that.
Well, when you have a brother who understands brokenness and their own brokenness, and they understand the freedom and grow in a growing kind of way, the freedom and joy of the gospel and of grace.
Right.
Like Titus 2:11, where it says grace teaches us to say no, so that and then it says, as we are looking to Jesus, the one He'll come and get us. And His grace teaches us. to have somebody who understands the brokenness, but also understands the freedom and the depth of joy and the unending relationship. Grace is another word for favor, that God likes us.
Right.
He wants us.
Yes.
And it's not that he's just excusing our sin. He's going, no, 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 no. My favor rests on you, and I want you. And as a really, really the perfect father would look down and take care of his kids, and he expects them to mess up. He expects them to not do everything right, especially if you're coming from broken places, and you need, and to find another brother who's walking that same road with those same realizations that we see in the Lord, and has the same spirit that has taken you on that journey of saying, like, no, I cannot use my abilities or my energy or my best intentions to be able to conquer these things. I need Jesus. I need His Spirit, His Word. I need a brother who's going to walk with me in this for the long haul.
Right. And a sister for you ladies. So there's a lot of ladies out there too. Same thing, same principle. Okay, I want to do it's kind of a hard transition, but I told you I wanted to talk about two things. I've got 3 colleagues at work, I'm one of them, that are dealing with aging parents right now.
Yeah.
I've talked about my mom. Praise God, she's doing well, she's recovering, all of that. But 2 other colleagues, one of my colleagues went out of town just this past week to go check in on her aging parents. You know, they're concerned. How much can they handle? And then I had another one that they just sold their home and transitioned them into some assisted living. Okay, you did something very radical, okay, in my mind. So we have a mutual friend, Lee, and I remember hearing Lee say this. You might not want me to say this. You know me. I don't care. So he says, Jonathan, you're one of my heroes. Okay, I can say the same thing. Just, take that compliment because you did an amazing thing.
Thank you.
You came off the mission field and did something pretty radical. Was it 8 years? 7 years?
With my dad?
Yeah.
9 years and 9 months.
Oh, gosh. 9 years and 9 months. 9 years and 9 months. He became the primary caretaker for his father, who was dealing with dementia. And he also has a brother, William, that has had pretty severe dysfunctions. Both of them have gone home to be with the Lord.
They died within 5 months of each other.
Which is astounding, and that wasn't that long ago.
No, it was 2023.
Okay. And I knew Jonathan during this season and was over at his house some, and so I saw this. It amazed me. But I want you to talk a little bit about that season because I think there's something that you could pass on to us.
Yeah, I would say it is the most challenging thing I've ever done. It is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And it was also a very healing thing for me personally to take care of my father day in, day out. And to walk the journey of him losing a lot of loss, to walk through loss, and to love and walk that journey with him. And basically, I remember a few weeks before he passed, he was getting very small, and one day I was putting him in bed. He just kind of fell as we were going. Fell into me as I was sitting on the bed, and I was just holding him like he did me when I was a kid. And it just struck me how it was. Now I was nearing the time to hand him over and let Jesus take him on home. And every night we would get into the Word and read a chapter, and I'd ask him what he thought. He would, saying it back to him, and we went through the whole Bible like that.
Wow.
And just those rich moments, and I remember about 6 months after I moved in with him. So my stepmother passed away. That night I moved in with him. And about 6 months later, he said, and remember there's a lot of dysfunction and stuff like growing up. He told me, he said, "You're different than I thought you were." And
what do you think he meant by that?
I think he thought that I was just selfish in my own pursuits of life, that because I'd gone off to overseas, or I'd left town, or I'd moved to Mobile and I was there for a while before I even went overseas. I was just kind of selfishly pursuing my dreams,
right?
And what was happening is I was pursuing God's call in my life. And there's another whole story, but I could take him there. But leaving father, Scripture, Jesus says, no one who leaves father or mother or brother or sister or houses for my sake in the Gospels would get 100 times more.
Right.
Those same things in this life. I saw that was true, and it helped me make the decision to go into ministry. But my family, remember, I was the guy that was supposed to hold the thing together.
Right.
And so they felt like I abandoned them, and my dad felt that way. And then I think about 6 months into it, it was a different kind of relationship, and it was sweet. And anyway, I think if my own personal thing, I was single, I could do it probably easier than some people. I don't want everyone to impress what I did is what you should do, but I will say this: if you lean in, and if it was a blessing to me to lean in fully, to take care for him, and to care for my brother at the same time, and to give myself. And I think I learned tremendous things from it. Wouldn't trade it.
Talk about that a little bit, because I want maybe a couple questions to think about. What'd you learn about yourself?
Yeah.
And talk about some of the challenges, not getting it perfect.
Yeah. Well, so I think this is probably, I wasn't married at the time, I am now, but I think when you're married, I hear a lot of people say you learn how selfish you are. And I think that was one of the things God was showing me, because my life revolved around him having a good day, bad day, whatever it was. He was dealing with epilepsy, he was dealing with dementia, had the combos of those, and he was deteriorating over time. So you're always learning. You think you got a new way, you figured out how to take care of him, but then something else gives way and you have to learn it again. I think one of the greatest things I learned was, and this was what Jesus was teaching me in this, was to walk with me today. You might have circumstances for your father, your family, or for yourself, like in temptations I had. I just wanted to get things fixed and move on to the next thing and be able to move forward in life. And God was showing me, no, pursue me. And so walk with me today and walk with me in the moment. And so one big lesson I learned was from the car door to the front door was one of the most important moments of my day. When I had a caregiver come in for some of the hours, and then I would go out and go buy groceries or pay bills, run errands, or do work. I was doing some work in ministry, those kind of things. And I would get home, and I realized that through failure, I'd walk in sometimes having a great day, and Dad's in a really bad spot. And at that moment, I was not prepared to take it on, and I responded in my whatever I had, which was mostly just me. And so I learned that that walk from the getting out of my car door, up the sidewalk to the front door, to surrender my expectations. Jesus, you know what's going on with him. Thank you for the day I've had so far. Help me let go of my expectations and walk in ready to love, to be there, to serve, to help, whatever I can do for him. And that grew, and it became an everyday habit for me. And I translated it into, like, I'm also going to this meeting with these people or this person. Lord, be with me and help me do that. And I think those are fantastic, deep lessons. I learned those not just in one day, one time. I kept relearning them, especially as Dad's situation and his condition would change over time. You asked the second part of the question. What was that?
Yeah, I think you've covered it,
Okay.
and I want to sit in that just for a minute, because I think that description of that walk from your car door to your front door is so powerful, right, for all of us, and to lay down expectations, and obviously dealing with aging parents, but maybe dealing with a spouse or dealing with your children, is laying down those expectations, because those expectations can be a setup. Right?
Absolutely.
Because most of the time, people that love us, people that we love, don't comply to what's going on with us. So that's a beautiful lesson. So let me just there with Jesus now. Talk about the grief process a little bit. I mean, I know it's still relatively fresh, but what has that been like?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's it's unique to each person, though. There's that you find, if you look up grief on Google, it's going to tell you like stages you go through. But it's not a linear start and finish thing. It is a circular. You keep coming back to things, and you'll be reminded by a cup that your dad used to drink coffee out of, or something like that.
Right.
It takes a little thing just to take you back, and you miss him, and you wish. Now, in my case, for my dad and my brother, they were long, health declining kind of situations where you saw this is better for them. They're not getting better. They can't get better, and so there was a long journey in that with them. But I just you want to. I can't remember what my thought line was there on there.
Yeah, I think, just being reminded. I like that you said that grief is not linear.
Yeah, that's right.
When you talk about bargaining, anger, acceptance, all those, that could happen in a day. All of those things could transpire. And I know we had talked over the time. You were. There was some relief, and you gotta give yourself like permission to not feel shame about relief. And when I say relief, that it's a whole lot better for them now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they suffered.
Yeah, they did, and it was, and so you had that quandary of feeling like, okay, all of a sudden, your time is your own, and but also you feel like that can feel selfish to a person who's always wanted. You grew up being the one to take care of people. But I'll say this, I haven't told the story very often, but Dingler's Chapel, you were talking about grieving and what has helped me through this. And it's unique to, it's my story that God gave me, but it's, and so I wouldn't want the expectation that it was going to happen to everybody.
Right.
But the day after I buried Dad, if you give me some time, I can tell this story real quick. Dingler's Chapel is one of those little white churches in the middle of nowhere country. You just drive by them, and it's basically just a chapel church kind of there, and its graveyard is more famous than the church, and that's where my mother is buried. And so when Dad died on May 5th, we were trying to decide when to have a service for him so people could come. We decided like on a Thursday, but then we rethought about it. Maybe Friday or Saturday, people could come for then. So he died on the 5th. We chose to have it on a Saturday, the 13th. May 13th, 2023 was the day of his service and his burial. I was kind of bummed that some people couldn't come. They were letting me know they couldn't come. And a friend of mine, another buddy of mine who told me, said, well, you realize Sunday is Mother's Day. I said, oh, okay. That makes sense. And so we had the service. Some friends gathered around me on that afternoon and evening after the service. I was exhausted from the week. I went home, went to sleep about midnight, woke up about 11 o'clock the next day on Mother's Day. And I really didn't have much of a plan, but I decided I want to go see my mom's grave. I just went to my dad's the day before. And so I left my house. I went to a place in a parking lot that was selling roses. I bought 2 roses. And I took those roses and I went to the grave that we buried my dad the day before, May 13th. And I laid a rose there. I grabbed a clod of dirt, wrapped it up in a towel, put it in the truck, and drove 100 miles to Dingler's Chapel. When I arrived there, I went to my mother's grave. I laid the other rose there, and I put Dad's clod of dirt and got one from her grave and wrapped it up, put it in the truck. And what I also did, I just went about a mile away was where my mother grew up. The house that she was born in was still there, and all her sisters were born there. And it was the same land that all the cousins would come, and we would be able to just play. So I had this it was a gorgeous day. This was May 14th. It was a gorgeous day, and incredible nostalgia was just washing over me, and I felt like I was just walking with God in it. And I decided to go back home, and I said, as I'm going to head back home, I'm going to run back by the church one more time to my mother's gravesite. And I went there, had a moment with her site, and then as I'm walking back to the truck, the thought occurred to me, I bet the church is unlocked. And sure enough, I walk up there and I open the door, and it's unlocked, and I go inside. Now this is I'm 62 now, so I'm 60 years old or so, like 59, whatever it is. And I, as a child, would sing in the church. We'd go. I walked in there. There's the same pews that were there when I was a kid. Matter of fact, they were the same pews They were there when my mother was a kid.
Wow.
The piano that she learned to play piano on was in the back corner. I walked around and just was remembering, and over this door was a plaque to some relatives of mine. Over this door over here was another plaque to my aunt and uncle. I walked around, and right in the middle, right in the front, was the communion table. And it was kind of disheveled. It had a little thing on it, had one offering plate, and it had this big old Bible, white Bible sitting up there, huge. And it was turned right to the middle of where the pictures are, which is, I remember when I was a little boy, that's what I wanted to look at, was the pictures. And as I was sitting there, I was going, I wonder if somebody else in my family had given that Bible, if there's anybody else related to it, because my family's so drenched around this church. And so I flip it over and I turn it over to the front, and it says right in the front of that, my dad's name is Nelson. And it said, this Bible was given by Mr. and Miss Nelson King and Sons on May 13th, 1973.
Wow.
50 years to the day.
Your parents.
Yeah, my parents.
Gave that Bible.
My parents, and I remember, I started faintly remembering, but it was my dad, my mom, my brother, and me, and that was our family. And the day before, I just buried the last of those, and I was the last one standing. I was the last one still alive. And it was, and that Bible was given by my family 50 years to the day before.
Day.
Yes.
Wow.
And so in that moment, I am shocked by what I'm reading. And I'm by myself, but I don't feel alone.
Right.
And what happened, I was 9 years old when that happened. God had been waiting 50 years. And the next year was when my family fell apart. My parents got a divorce. Then the life in my teens went crazy, and it was 20s was like getting out of that and being able to walk with God and develop and grow, and all these stories. And then later in my 30s and 40s, the bad habits and ways that I had learned how to cope, God had seen them, and he was working to heal me and to grow me and to draw me close and to teach me how to depend on Him, from going to work to also dealing with the work and the ugliness in my own heart and my own dreams and hopes and the pains from the past and everything. Carl, when I saw that and I was standing there, I felt like just a huge hug.
Wow.
From God, and Him saying, I've been watching you this whole time. I've seen everything, and I love you. And my love for you has nothing to do with how much you can win people to Christ, or go to the other side of the world, or be a good person, or earn anything. It's, I love you, and I have died for you, and guess what? It's personal. I've been watching you through all these years.
50 years, the 9-year-old, the divorce the following year.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think that'll be a good place to start. And, I was just thinking that 50 years, and to prepare you for your wife.
Yes. Yes.
And all the work that this forming of this new identity with Crystal. We're so grateful for that. So I want to thank you for listening. Thank my dear friend for being here with me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. I love you. See you next time.